Oh my god, guys. It's Monster Madness time. It's Monster Madness 8, and today, well, for the rest of this month, we are going to be doing what I call Oscar-A-Thon. So we came up with this idea a couple months back about like, hey, what if the Academy wasn't run by fucking morons and they actually gave horror movies the time of day? And you know what? Gave it their own category. Like, here, boom, there you go. You get your own category. So I'm joined by Cinematic Sterling and Right Dude today, and we're going to be going over the movies that are going to be nominated, or what we think would be nominated, and then pretty much just talk about each one, experiences of seeing it, why we think it would be nominated. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's get started. We're going to be doing the 2020s, which is not a lot. It's only 4 years. And then we're going to do 2010s today. And then each, it's going to be 2 times a week, going to go over each decade. And then on Halloween, we are going to reveal the results from the forms below. But obviously, you guys got to watch the live show first. So first things first, for 2023, we are going to start out with Godzilla Minus One. So, Godzilla Minus One, we have all seen this movie. We all pretty much said like this was an excellent movie. It pretty much got everything right in terms of Godzilla as a character and the overall feel, like bringing it back to the original film, and just it managed to really hit a lot of the themes home of like PTSD, survivor's guilt, all that stuff. And so yeah, I think personally, I think Godzilla Minus One would get it because I mean the Academy did give it the Academy Award for Best Visual Effects, so I think there's the possibility that it would get nominated. And then next we have Infinity Pool. I think this is the case. I liked this movie, and however, I do think it would get nominated. I know not a lot of people liked it, and that's fine, but I think this reaches like there's a bit of nepotism there. There is a bit of and like it's Brandon Cronenberg. It's a little artsy fartsy a bit, and it has a lot of aspects that are, I think the Academy would like. So yeah, I do genuinely believe Infinity Pool would actually be nominated. Who knows when? That would be up to you guys, but I do think Infinity Pool would get nominated. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So, what do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, just like kind of like why do you think it would win the Academy Award or be nominated at least? Just
Why
like a
would
quick.
I mean, even though, look, I've seen this movie like last year. I was not a fan of it. I just found it a little boring and just, I don't know, it just wasn't very interesting for me. I mean, if you liked it, that's awesome. But if I had to say like what the Academy, because you do have a point, like because it is one of those artsy kind of movies. It's not for me, obviously, but I would say like, I mean, I honestly wouldn't be surprised because this looks like the kind of artsy horror kind of film that the Academy would go for, especially at a point where we all know that the Oscars hate horror movies unless it sounds like the lambs or Get Out.
And we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think Infinity Pool I think would be nominated. Now, ignoring personal grievances with it, I think it would be nominated. Next one, No One Will Save You. Devin, you're the only one here who watched it. What do you?
I did too.
Oh, sorry, Rob. I thought only Devin watched it, but well, Devin, you watched it first, so I know this is more sci-fi heavy, but why do you think this will be nominated?
I could see it getting a nomination because I think a big thing because this did get critical acclaim, And the big thing that a lot of people really liked about this movie, myself included, was how there's only 5 words of dialogue spoken in the entire runtime. There's like little to no dialogue in this movie. It's told through visual storytelling, and I think the critics would like the Academy would eat that style up.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, No One Will Save You. It is sci-fi, but it's more like sci-fi horror, right? It's more like
It is.
yeah. So I think Devin made a good argument for that. Then here's another one that you guys have seen. I have not seen it yet, unfortunately.
I haven't seen it either, so I can't
So
comment.
Devin, you're on this one. When Evil Lurks. Why do you think this one would be nominated?
Same deal. A lot of critics really loved this movie. A lot of people were actually calling this. People were calling this the best horror movie of last year.
So there you go. That's an interesting case for it.
I mean, it wasn't my favorite horror movie last year. I didn't love it, but I did really like it. And I definitely liked how it handled possession.
Yeah. Better than The Pope's Exorcist?
Oh, totally.
Better than Exorcist Believer?
No, it's not. It's not Believer. It's, remember, you're praising Jesus, so Believer.
Anyway,
Believer.
You won't be seeing that here, guys, unless we do a Razzie-a-thon, but I don't imagine doing that.
I mean that was already nominated for a Razzie anyway, so
yeah. But yeah, talk to me. I didn't like this as much as you guys did, but I do think this would be nominated. Again, it kind of does like possession.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Possession in a new kind of interesting way. It has a very bleak tone to it. And like even though the messages and themes are very obvious in regards to drug addiction and like social drug, like social drinking, social drugs and all that stuff, it's still what it managed to do. It's still like it was a very interesting premise done well, and I feel like that's why it would be nominated. I feel, but again, yeah. A24 is kind of Kino at this point. But Rob, sorry, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, like, honestly, I'm probably going to be alone on this, but this is honestly my favorite horror film of last year. So
there you go. Yeah,
I honestly, so I could honestly see this get the kind of nomination, the praise. I know that A24 is always hit and miss. So sometimes you get some well thought and well thought indie movies, that are praised to this day. Other times you get pretentious garbage. So, but I feel like this is honestly this is definitely the former. But I would honestly say that this honestly, I think that this, because of what all the hype and the fact that it's an indie kind of movie, I feel like that's something the Oscars would go for.
Yeah, most definitely. And then 2022.
What do we want to announce what we think the Oscars will vote for?
No, the viewers are going to do that. There is a Google form down below in the description. After we have made our arguments, you guys can anybody who's watching right now, you guys can vote for what you, and specifically what you think the Academy would choose, not your own personal favorite, because that's an extra dimension of like, a difficult choice. Like what would something like the Academy vote for? But even then, next one is Pearl. I think we can all unanimously agree this was cinema at its finest degree. Mia Goth gave one of the best performances of that year. That monologue towards the end of the film alone was worth the price of admission. Her chemistry with various characters was excellent. A good foreboding tone, and a friend of mine described it as Wizard of Oz meets Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and I'm kind of inclined to agree with that. And yeah, overall, a very, very excellent movie, and we all pretty much agree on that. But yeah, The Menu. Did anybody else see this one?
I did.
I thought The Menu was fucking great.
I love The Menu. Is awesome.
Yeah, I never got a chance to see it. It didn't look great to me, and then everyone was like loving it. Got a lot of critical acclaim. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'll eventually see it, but for right now, yeah, it kind of for the vibe I got, it was kind of like a lot of like themes and pretentiousness a little bit. Like I don't mean to like sound bad. Like I know I because I hate pretentious movies, but I feel like the menu kind of like follows into that vibe. But I feel like it's also satirizing it as well.
It's making fun. It's making
Yeah.
fun of pretentiousness.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think they would eat up the pretentious side, but at the same time admire the satirization. So yeah, the menu is another choice we have, and then the Black Phone. This one was a little bit tougher to include because I don't know if the Academy would go for this one, but the fact that it got a lot of like attention, I feel like maybe you can make the argument that because it was like more mainstream. Oh, okay, we'll include the mainstream pick. But even then, it was a grounded, effective, well-made horror thriller, a good child actor, Ethan Hawke's performance, an overall great mystery. It did have some weird moments of comedy, but outside of that, I thought we all pretty much unanimously agreed that this was a great return to form for Scott Derrickson, and I think it did a lot right in terms of what it set out to do. I'm cautious with the sequel, but I do hope it's as good as this. So the Black Phone most definitely, I think, would get it, and they would maybe ignore their biases a little bit. Then we go to Ty West's other film of that year, X. While I do think the Academy would be more so drawn to Pearl, as X is more like Grindhouse, but I feel like they would view it as like, oh, you're remembering history kind of thing. Period piece, and they are a bit of a sucker for a period piece. Not exactly, a far away period piece, but X, I feel like would, you know, reach that point. I think. What do you guys think? Would this be a little bit much, or do you think they would maybe go for this one?
I don't know how they feel about a slasher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Like
is fair.
Pearl, because Pearl, sure, there is a body count, but that one's not really a slasher movie.
Right.
That's more like character study.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I still believe that some things it has a little bit more to it than just like a slasher, and I think they would see that because it is kind of like about Pearl, the older Pearl, like being stuck in this place, and like in the context of the movie Pearl, not the character. I think it would make it a little bit more meatier than what was shown, and I do think the performances are very good, and I think that they would maybe gravitate toward it. And remember, sometimes the Academy does go for weirder choices you don't think they would go for, like like Tree of Life for Nebraska or something like that. So I think they would go with weirder choices outside of their wheelhouse, and I think this one would definitely be the case. And then finally, Nope. This is going to be one of many. Since the Academy seems to love Jordan Peele, even though this is way more sci-fi heavy than horror heavy, I think the Academy would go for a Jordan Peele movie. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing because remember Jordan Peele, he actually didn't he win Best Direct? No, wait, it was no, he won
Best original screenplay.
original screenplay for Get Out. So
So
I feel like
yeah,
and there are some, and honestly, even though yeah, you can make the argument that that's more sci-fi, but there are honestly horror. There are some
a
horror
lot of horror
elements.
moments.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there are horror elements in it. So I could see this actually getting. I could see this getting a kind of nomination kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, like there's like yeah, sure, yeah, it's sci-fi because we're dealing with the main threat being an alien. But there are horrifying moments in this movie from the chimp to seeing the UFO, learning
Like-
that the UFO isn't actually a UFO.
Yeah.
But when you think it's abducting people, it's actually eating them.
Yeah. This was great to see in IMAX, by the way.
That's what I was gonna say is like, yeah, that's what I was gonna say is like the whole when at the ranch when everyone in that whole auditorium they just got sucked up and just eaten by the alien, kind of thing. So that's what I mean by like when I say like there are definitely some horror elements.
Most definitely, I agree with you there.
Hell, one little detail I love is when you see the UFO, like there's a part where you see the alien like fly by, and you still hear all the people screaming, "Help me! Help! Help!"
Yeah. Thank you for that demonstration, Devin. But yeah, nope, definitely. I think it's sci-fi horror. I know people, it's not. No, it's horror. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, 2021, you and I saw this, Devin. This was one of those movies I was surprised with how much I loved, because it was sort of like a parallel to the James Wan movie Malignant, where Malignant is more drenched in like a heavy giallo style. This feels more like a substance heavy giallo movie, and I feel like it's just one of those movies you kind of have to experience for yourself. But I feel like the messaging in terms of grief and how you like kind of come to terms with that was done very, very well here, and I feel like the Academy would definitely go towards that. And I feel like, a very like grounded sort of film, and it's but it does have like some artsy moments I think they would most definitely go for.
Yeah, I agree. It was damn.
Yes, I know. None of us liked this movie. However, I do think, yes, I know. I do think that the Academy would still go for it. One, it is Jordan Peele co-writing, and two, it's like a race movie. It's like they eat that shit up. Like, oh, hey, look, like how important, like, oh, look, racism and racism's evil, blah 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 blah. So I think they would go for that. Yes, we personally didn't care for it. However, I do think the Academy would still eat this shit up, because it's like, oh, look, it's like, oh, look, the police are evil, white people are evil, da, 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 all that kind of shit. So I think they would eat that shit up, personally. Then even though this didn't get a ton of great reviews, I went with Mad God, because even though it wasn't like amazing or anything, the reasoning I choose the Boyhood defense. It took 30 years to make, so that makes it a good movie, and that's simply the best reasoning I have. Like, even though it is a technical marvel from what I've seen of it, it's still, from what I've seen, it's like very light on story and all that. So
It is.
yeah, so it's definitely like a very art driven film, and I think the Academy would kind of eat that up too. But Devin, what do you think? You saw it, so I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, it's definitely light on plot and story. It's mainly mainly visuals. Like, that's the main focus of the movie. I mean, is the stop motion excellent? Oh yeah, it's awesome. But there's really nothing else outside of that.
Right.
I mean, I think I gave it like a 3 out of 5.
Yeah, that's what it was, like middling for a lot of people. So I do think all right, that's an interesting. I don't know which one you're talking about. Flatulence-worthy descent deep into the depths of existential redundancy. Okay, I don't know what movie you're talking about, but maybe you're talking about My God. Maybe Candyman. That would make sense. But yeah, I think I do think Mad God would still be, I still think the Academy would kind of eat that up. Oh, it took 30 years to make. Look at the stop motion, that kind of thing. So yeah, I went with that. And then Lamb, you saw this one, Devin. I know you didn't care for it, but just make the argument why you think the Academy would go for it.
Honestly, despite like a mixed audience, it's the same deal with a lot of A24 movies. Critics love it and they eat it up, but the audiences don't like it.
Right. So yeah, it's like, has like
it's one of those
artsy
shit. artsy kind of movies that have like metaphors.
Yeah, symbolism and all that.
Symbolism.
But yeah, Lamb kind of reaches that vein a bit. And then here's the mainstream choice. I went with Quiet
Mm.
Place Part 2. I know, like, oh, the Academy wouldn't go for that. However, I do think that they would, like, kind of like how they gave Mad Max Fury Road like a Best Picture nomination. Quiet Place Part 2. We all saw this, right? Rob, you saw it, right?
Oh yeah, I saw it.
Um, so I think we could all agree it's not as good as the first one, but it's still like managed to like be like a decent,
I,
effective horror thriller. I think.
I mean, I thought part two was just all right. So
Yeah, but
I
I
don't.
think
I'm
yeah.
sorry, go on.
Just like just a quick thing of like I think the Academy would like okay, it's mainstream, people like it, we'll throw
And the
it in
fact
there.
that so
Yeah, so I think
absolutely.
we have that, and then we have 2020. This is definitely something they would most definitely go for. It's a great movie. I think it's very well done, hard to watch, but it's like dealing with the personification of dementia through
Ooh.
molding rot of a house, and I think it they would eat that shit up. It's like, it's like they kind of, when it comes to like
Yeah.
a disorder or a disease or something, they kind of like that thing. And it also deals with generational trauma. I think they would kind of eat that. And then it's like it's all women. So, it's a women, power to the women kind of movie.
I mean,
So,
I
yeah.
honestly I've not seen this movie, but it's just like reading on the description. I don't know how comfortable I would feel even watching
No,
it
yeah, that's
because
understandable, man. Like, yeah.
I've seen people with dementia
Yeah, it's hard to watch.
too many times, in fact.
Yeah, it's really hard to watch, but I think they would kind of like it's a commentary, it's like dealing with this like illness and like all that. So I think they would definitely go for this. But the next film, mainstream choice, but a lot of people did like it. Critics and audiences love this movie. It
Yeah.
deals with
I am one of them.
abuse.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
loved
deals with
it.
abuse. It's effective. It had a lot of great thrilling moments. But
They
yeah,
would eat this up.
yeah.
Yeah, I would definitely say that. And fun fact, by the way, this came out like right when COVID was starting to hit. I
Yeah.
remember my brother and we were going to have a double feature with this and Onward, but that was like when schools were shut down and
Yeah.
people were not going anywhere. Theaters were still there, but I was like, you know what? Let's wait a week and all. And then the following week, theaters started closing down, so we ended up just doing the double feature at home.
Yeah, although Rob, the last movie I saw in theaters before lockdown, Sonic.
Hey.
But yeah,
That was awkward.
Invisible Man, I do think it's a genuinely great movie. It has the mainstream appeal that the audience that the Academy would throw in there. However, it also deals with abuse, so I think that they would kind of go for that as well. And it kind of has like some artsy moments here and there. Not a lot, but like, now let's see how Wolfman is. Woof. Anyway.
Yeah.
Saint Maud, religion. I think they would eat that shit up.
Hell yeah, they would.
It's pretty artsy too, but the thing is, it's a genuinely great movie. Like it's like a very good slow burn. It's very effective, but I think they would also eat up the weirder aspects to it. So I do think that they would really go for this. So yeah, Saint Maud, very well done, very well made. But even that, I would think they would eat up those smaller aspects that I mentioned. But yes, too bad Zach isn't here. But from what I saw of Underwater, this could be like a mainstream thing. And the thing is, it is 2020, so there is the idea of not a lot of things to nominate. So I think Underwater would like kind of be thrown in there as a.
By the way, I sent something, but I accidentally sent in the comments. Oops.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, I meant to send in the private chat, but I accidentally sent in the comments. So.
Right.
Yeah.
I haven't seen this, so no comment.
I honestly
neither have I.
I know of it, but because I have seen trailers of it before, before COVID hit, like when I was going to the theater, but I haven't seen it, so I do know
I
that
remember it looked like it pretty much looked like a remake of Leviathan, which was an okay movie, but it looked interesting, and so and I think it was like effective, and it's 2020. They had a lot of, they didn't have a lot of choices around. So,
And
there's that. Then we have
yeah.
Cadaver. This is a Spanish film. I feel like, another, they would go for this. It's like dealing with family, and like I don't know a ton about this movie, but it did get a lot of really good critical reception. And they would kind of be getting anything. And so yeah, I
By
do
the way,
think that sorry, you
I'm
you
saying
go.
like Rome just texted in the chat. He's going to be hopping on soon.
Okay. So yeah, I think this would be a very effective movie, like in terms of its ideas and whatnot. But yeah, that's it for the 2020s. Now we get to the 2010s, and we have Midsummer. This is right up their alley. You know it, I know it. Guys, why do you think this is right up the Academy's alley?
I just remember this is, I feel like this is the kind of like, again, another one of those A24 artsy horror kind of films.
Pretentious.
Yeah. I feel like this would eat up. I mean, I've seen this movie one time and I'm still have no idea what to make of it. So
I like Midsummer.
I did like it, but I can see like there's a lot of like things that the Academy, again, it deals with kind of not abuse, but like kind of like rocky
Toxic
relationships, toxic
grief.
relationship. Thank you.
Honestly,
Grief, a lot of like like messaging themes, all that stuff. So I honestly,
even on Letterboxd, I didn't even bother giving it a rating because I have no idea what to think of it.
That's what I thought of Hereditary, and we'll get to that soon enough. But yeah, Midsummer.
I
think it's a great movie, but I think the Academy would also eat it up as well.
And by the way, before we move on, fuck Ari Aster.
Yes, most definitely. Then we get to Us. Now I know this was considered the lesser movie compared to Get Out. I preferred it, but I do think just Lupita Nyong'o just gave such a fucking brilliant performance, and I feel like this would be a continuing theme with the Academy after Get Out in terms of horror. I think they would go for Us. But what do you guys think about that?
I can honestly see this being another, because I mean, I'll admit that Us, even though it's not as strong as Get Out, I still think like this is it has been getting critical praise and all, maybe not as much as his last film, but I do know people end up enjoying it, and of course it's Jordan Peele, so
exactly.
You know how much the like, even though they're not a fan of horror movies, you know how much they love Jordan Peele. So.
Yeah, and I know we're past that, but I think going back to Candyman 2021, as much as that movie sucks, Jordan Peele was involved. He helped write the script, and he produced it.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I can't say because I haven't seen the Candyman remake.
Well, it's a requel, so there's that.
Requel, remake, whatever
the fuck, it doesn't matter at this point. But yeah, I think
I don't have any intention of watching it either way.
But yeah, Us, I think, is just a really good, well-made movie, and I think the Academy would go for that because it also deals with like kind of like weirder aspect. Like when we get into the lore of the movie, it kind of goes a little artsy and like a little out there, and I think the Academy would kind of go for that. Then we have Swallow. Now this is, again, deals with toxic and abusive relationships. It's female heavy, and it's very dark. I haven't seen it yet, but it got a lot of critical praise, and I think that this would there's a lot of like themes I think they would like, and a lot of like interesting aspects, like as you can see from the description. It's like it's all about, because the whole basis of the movie is like she has no control over her life except for this one thing, which is like this weird fucked up thing she has, but it's like it's the only control I have. So I think the Academy would also buy into that as well. So yeah, and from what I've heard, Emily Bennett gives a very good performance, so I do think they would go for Swallow. And then The Lighthouse, going to our boy Mr. Nosferatu himself, Robert Eggers. But yeah, I think they did nominate this for a couple things outside of the fact they did nominate it for cinematography and I think maybe some like art direction stuff. But I do think they would go for this. It's definitely, bleak, period piece, simplistic. I think The Lighthouse would be something that most definitely that the Academy would go for. It's it really like it's just such a simple like effective movie. I think they would go for that. Plus, it's black and white. It's period piece. They love all that type of shit. Hi, Rome. How you doing?
Hey, what's up, John? What's up, everybody?
What's up, Rum? And this is a
So
big thing with the Oscars.
mm,
And Rob would probably agree. Rob would probably be on my side about this. They love period piece movies.
I just mentioned that
They
like 3
eat
times.
that shit up.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, they love it. That's why I'm like with a lot of these, I'm like period piece, period piece. They love period pieces. The older I think the older it is, the more they like it. So I think
How
that
many
they
period
would,
pieces have won Best Picture? Oppenheimer, Titanic,
yeah, a lot of them. Dances with Wolves and Shakespeare in
Dances with
Love.
Wolves.
And not to say though that that's a bad thing. There's a lot of great. It's just like it feels like the Academy just has a gigantic hard on for period pieces.
They have that
That's the
big
truth.
bone. They have that big boner for period pieces movies.
Yeah, so I think that they would go for with this with The Lighthouse. And then I feel this is the mainstream pick. I feel like this would be like sort of like a penance for like, okay, The Shining was not critically acclaimed when it first came out. So we'll give it to the sequel. Most people I feel like liked this movie. I think it was I mean, I like it more than the original, but I'm biased cuz I don't like the first movie. But I do think it dealt with a lot of, it dealt with the, generational trauma. It dealt with, and I feel like there's going to be a common thread with a lot of these movies. I feel like the Academy would like Stephen King because it brings in a lot of like horrific ideas that I think they would go for in terms of their horror category. But at the same time, like it also brings in like a mainstream aspect. And a lot of his movies do get a lot of critical praise. So I think that it's going to be a common theme.
I mean,
what do you guys think?
mainly a lot of Steve. Well, I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I'm
So,
still telling you to go. Like, what were you gonna
Yeah, he's
say?
asking us to go.
Okay. Yeah. I can honestly see this because, you can make the argument that The Shining back in 1980 was not well received. I mean, the original won Razzies, so that should tell you something. And it was not well received. Even Stephen King didn't like it.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like it gained much more of a cult following over the years, and it's been reevaluated, and now it's praised like one of the best horror movies, kind of thing. And I know for Stephen King, like honestly, I don't think was he ever nominated for any of his horror novels? Because I know like a lot of the film adaptations that were based on his novels were all like dramas, like The Shawshank Redemption and The Green Mile and all. But like, has he ever gotten nominated for any of the
Misery?
Did Misery get nominated?
Yeah,
Nominated for anything.
Kathy Bates won for that. Yeah.
Kathy Bates won Best Actress.
Oh, okay then. Okay.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she won Best Actress or Best Supporting Actress. I don't know which one she won.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Dr.
Shining,
Sleep would definitely be nominated at the very least.
I have a feeling
Best Actress.
Sorry, Zach, what were you saying?
I was gonna say I have a feeling it would have been Best Actress for her because aside from James Caan, she was the other main lead. So
yeah, I don't know. I would have to look it up, but yeah, Dr. Sleep I think would be like one of those like, all right, let's nominate this one. But even outside of that, like even outside the fact it's connected to now like the critical appraisal Shining film, it still got a lot of critical praise. Ewan McGregor was excellent. The girl, unfortunately, I don't remember her name. She was great. Rebecca Ferguson was excellent.
Yeah.
Everybody was great, and it had a good style. Mike Flanagan is my boy, so
Yeah, I agree. I was gonna say because I believe this was my favorite horror film of 2019, so I would have picked it too.
And something that's pretty important is we all know King is infamous for hating the Kubrick version. he liked this
Yes.
movie. Like this was, I
He
always saw
said it
Doctor
put it into
Sleep
perspective
as
for him. That's
Right,
what
it
I
was
always
more
saw
in line
Doctor
with
Sleep
his
as the
vision.
happy, as like the happy medium. It pleased fans who love the book and also fans that love the Kubrick movie.
Yeah.
I prefer
Definitely.
It was best of both worlds.
I prefer the extended cut also. By the way, I figured
I
out.
agree with you, Zach. The extended one's really
Boom.
good.
Yeah, I didn't
Preach.
notice much of a difference, but it had been a while since I watched the theatrical cut, so I don't remember like the
There's
intricacies
no
of that.
issue. There's no issue at all with the theatrical cut, but man, I like my extended cuts.
Yes.
Yeah.
So does Zack Snyder. But yeah, so on to 2018's. We were just talking about Midsummer. Now we're getting into Hereditary. So Devin, since you love it the most, why don't you make an argument why this would be nominated for an Oscar for Best Horror Film?
Bias aside, because I do really love this movie. Yeah, I know. Out of all of us, I guess I'm the nicest to Ari Aster. But I don't know. This goes, it's a pretty artsy movie. I have a feeling, the Oscars would eat up like cult, like movies based around cults and
Yes, Cults and Demons.
demons.
Cults and Demons, yep.
And it's another grief, a movie that deals with grief and trauma.
I feel like family drama is also something they kind of go for a lot of the time too.
Exactly. Like this has a lot of the stuff they like. And this was Ari's like his first feature length debut. I mean, sure, yeah, he made short films. There was Munchausen and the very infamous Strange Thing About the Johnsons.
Yeah.
But this like put him out there like wow, this dude, we should pay attention to this guy.
And then it all
worse.
went to shit.
With that thing
Penis-
that we shall not talk
Penis
about.
monster and all.
We talk about it.
Yeah,
We don't talk about that thing.
And then, yeah, so Hereditary, I do think that they would kind of eat it up. I think, yeah, as I said, because, I mean, look at the 70s. Like, out of the horror movies they actually nominated, like The
Exorcist?
Omen, Exorcist,
Yeah.
going back to the 60s, Rosemary's Baby, they liked a lot of demon stuff. So I think that they would kind of go for that. And Cults, I think, an extension of that. So Hereditary would definitely get it. Annihilation... Again, this is very science fiction heavy, but it does follow into the surreal experimentalism that I think that they would like as well. Plus, it's got a good cast.
Yeah.
It's got a lot of like hard science ideas. Rob, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, like, yeah, I mean, just like what I said about Nope, it does have a lot of science. It is more on the science fiction, but I do see like a lot of horror elements into it too.
Yes.
So
Exactly.
I feel like this is something that would that the Academy would eat up. Plus, I mean, whether you love or hate Ex Machina, it actually got noticed by the Academy. So
Exactly. Yep.
So yeah, Alex.
I haven't seen this one, so I can't comment.
Yeah.
on it.
Likewise.
But yeah, it's I think it eventually went to Netflix, so it might still be on there. I'm not sure though. So, but yeah, Annihilation was very effective. I thought it was like amazing when it first came out.
I did also want to say something about Hereditary, because I know it's technically not actually a bad movie, and it is his best work. It's just very hard for me to compliment anything about Ari Aster because of what.
Yeah, no, that's
to give
fair.
credit where credit is due. It is very well made. It is very hard hitting, and
Yeah.
but yeah, fuck Ari Aster.
But
That's
okay.
exactly what I said during when we were talking about Midsummer.
Yeah. So Apostle, going by what Devin said, a lot of cult stuff. It's got a really good cast. It's definitely feels more highbrow. Even though it is a Netflix movie, it feels very cinematic. Even though it takes place in one location. There's a little bit of family drama. Got some cult stuff in there. You got some not not really demonic stuff, but like again, like I feel like this is something, you know, it's very slow burn. It's got that period piece aspect. They love their period pieces, as we keep saying. I know we're going to be repetitious with that, but it's true. So I think Apostle would most definitely be like the Academy will take an eye to it. I feel like that they would definitely take an eye to this. And Dan Stevens is great. And all the acting was really good. So yeah, and it's slower. You know, they like their slower movies, a little slower, long movies.
Dan
So.
Stevens is the reason why this movie caught my eye. I haven't gotten to see it yet, but it had caught my eye because like I was introduced to Dan Stevens as an actor through the Beauty and the Beast remake, so he was another actor that I started following things he was going to be in. Heard about this, but I never got to see it. It's another one that's on my.
It's on Netflix, so if you want to get a chance, boom, take it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Apostle, definitely great film, and I think that they would definitely go for it with all the reasons I mentioned. Then we have A Quiet Place. This is, as I was mentioning, this is the mainstream pick, kind of like what I was saying about Part 2. But it is effective. This is a lot, you know, this is the first one, so it's a lot better.
Yeah, I would say like I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
Okay.
Please talk.
I was gonna say because I think this is honestly one that would definitely get a nomination. Like even on top of like all the other artsy horror indie films before.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is one that I could this is honestly a horror movie that I could definitely see. Because I think this also got nominated I think this got nominated for Best Sound, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Something like that.
I mean, it lost to Bohemian Rhapsody, but
which makes no fucking sense. But
exactly.
I mean, this was my favorite movie of 2018.
There you go. Yeah. I just think
that
it's a very effective movie, and I think the Academy would go for it. Whether you use the argument, oh, it's a mainstream thing, might as well throw it in there. It's the popular thing kids like.
It was very creative too, because when that movie came out, people were talking how creatively, just how creative, like how like they used a lot of their sign language. There wasn't a whole lot of dialogue, and they really told a great story by going through those kind of things, which a lot of people didn't see in movies. So it was really good, and really, like I said, John, really effective. Like with this movie.
Ditto. It's not one that I love by any stretch. Like the whole franchise isn't one that I'm in love with, but it is still the best one in my opinion. And while it's not the horror film of 2018, that I would have picked, I wouldn't disagree for why it could be picked because of how big it was.
Yeah. So yeah, I think Quiet Place is definitely.
I feel like this could have won like maybe like best like screenplay.
Yeah.
Like the story itself
I feel like
so good.
Yeah, most definitely. I think this had a lot going for it, and I think the Academy in this alternate universe would recognize that. Then finally, for last 2018 movie is Unsane. Again, this is an experimental kind of movie. It's Steven Soderbergh, so there's a little bit of clout there. It's got Claire Foy and I think like many like Academy-esque groups, mainly Golden Globes because she worked on like a lot of TV. But I think they would like Claire Foy. But also this had the very experimental aspect where all of it was shot on an iPhone. Like that was like the big like selling point of this movie was like it was all shot on an iPhone. Look how crazy that is. And I think like they would kind of like that as well. But it's also like a genuinely effective horror thriller. Like it's really fucking creepy. It gets under your skin, and it's like mental asylums. I feel like that's a mental institution. That's definitely something I feel like maybe the Academy would kind of go for if like it is effective. And this was a very effective movie. It got under your skin, but it was also it fed into like a lot of those experimental aspects. Plus, it deals with like a toxic sort of not relationship, but it's a stalker. So it has like the toxicity, the male abuse kind of thing that I think the Academy would kind of go for. So yeah, Unsane, very effective movie, and I think the Academy would kind of use that to their advantage. Be like, you know what? Yeah. What is it?
Who is it? Who's in it? Anyone we know?
Claire Foy is the lead. Juno Temple is also in it. And a couple other people I don't remember, but yeah, it's mainly about her. She gets stuck in like a mental institution because of like some weird kind of reasons. I don't want to spoil it. But yeah, she kind of gets stuck there, and like she's like mind unraveling, and she's also like dealing with this stalker that may or may not be like a nurse there. So yeah, it's definitely, and it has like surreal nature to it that I think they would go for as well.
I'll look into it.
Then we get to 2017, Get Out. We've all been talking about this whenever we brought up Jordan Peele, Get Out. They were fucking jerking this movie off. Everybody was jerking this movie off. That's kind of the reason why I didn't like it at first, but then I rewatched it and I appreciated it as time went on. But yeah, it works. It's kind of, you know, pro and anti what it's kind of saying, like about like race and stuff like that. And so I feel like, you know, the Academy loved it, like in, you know, the normal.
Yeah, I mean, it won original screenplay,
and I think it might have won one other thing if I remember correctly. I could be remembering wrong, but
I'll take a look.
But yeah, Get Out. Everybody loved this movie. The Academy loved it. The critics loved it. The audiences loved it.
The weirdest freaking history with this movie. I remember we went and saw this. Like, it wasn't a film it's a film I hadn't even heard of. I hadn't seen any trailers or nothing. And the only reason I was salty toward this film, I mean, there's two reasons why I was salty towards this film at first. One reason is because my family and all of us, my brothers and all us, we were all going out to see it. It was a film they wanted to see. I wanted to go see Logan again, but they wouldn't let me go by myself to see it while they saw this. So I had to sit through this. So I was salty for that reason. And we got there like 20 minutes late, so we missed a bit of it. So I was confused as to what was going on anyway.
Yeah.
So, petty shit. But like everyone, kind of like how you said, like I rewatched it later because like I think I randomly got it on Blu-ray for Christmas this year. I think my brother got it for me because he really wanted, because he liked it. He really wanted me to give it another shot, and all because he thinks it's something I really like, and I really did. So it's
right.
Unless there's another one in this decade that comes up that I'd forgotten about, that this would probably be my pick for that. For the
by the way, I looked it up. Get Out. It got multiple nominations, but the only one it won was original screenplay.
Right.
Okay.
So
I don't like the alternate ending though.
One thing I do
the
like
alternate ending is stupid.
One thing I do remember.
Wins.
One thing I do remember is the trailers did a great job not telling you anything, and that's what made the movie even more surprising when you watched the movie.
Yeah, very effective.
But so unless something else comes up for this year that I've forgotten about, then this would probably be my pick.
Because I think the trailers
gave
you a different movie than what you thought this movie was going to be.
Yeah, but like in a good way. Like there was a very good marketing. Because the thing is, I saw Jordan Peele, I'm like, oh, this is going to be a comedy. But I'm like, when does it get funny? And I'm like, oh no, this is a horror movie. I'm like, okay, let's see. And then we finally watch it. We're like, oh my god, that was actually really good.
Yeah, I know. My mom, she loves like those kinds of horror films. And like after I got done seeing it, I was like showing it to her. So, and she loved it. Yeah. So kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know,
so Get Out's the obvious choice.
We can all definitely agree this is Peele's best.
Absolutely.
No, I don't agree. I think Us is his best.
I do think. I mean, it wasn't one of the picks, but I think that's what made Barbarian so effective. Because the trailers told you nothing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. But I don't think they would go for that because it was a little too weird. And too fucked up. So I figured they wouldn't go for that. But yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I'll say this. Like I'll go for later.
Yeah, but It Comes at Night. This was more horror drama, more like drama with horror elements. But I feel like the Academy would be one of those cases when it doesn't have a lot of horror elements. They would nominate it. Well, it's like it has enough, like because they again don't like horror. So like, it has enough. It doesn't have a ton. But we'll nominate it anyway because it's like it still has some horror elements, and we'll include it. Because they hate like genuine horror, so like this wasn't a bad movie by any means, but I feel like it was this. We're going back to what Rome was saying. This was like the anti Get Out, where it was like it was horribly mismarketed, but it was to the movie's detriment because it sold you a totally different movie, and because of that, it just was not.
Yeah, because not
great.
It's not selling the main thing in the trailers can go any which way, good or bad, and we've seen it go either which way many times.
Yeah, but I think they would still go for this. It's got family drama. It's like you don't totally see the threat of it. It's all like mystery on if there is actually a threat. There's the surrealness of it. It focuses more on the drama aspects. So that's why I think it comes in. I would probably get nominated. And then The Ritual, another Netflix movie. Don't worry, they do have them. I know it's crazy, but Netflix does actually have stuff of quality. It's very few and far between, but it's there. So
One
yeah,
of-
I think
This was
what do you think? What do you think, Zach?
Oh, this was one of the first movies my sister Sarah ever recommended to me. Like when we had first reconnected and all that, and found each other again. And it's become one of my favorite horror films of all time. Believe it or not, even though that
The Ritual is awesome.
Despite the fact that I know you wouldn't think because I've never mentioned it, but this is one of my favorite more modern day horror films of all time. I love it.
Even though the ending, a lot of people have commented on the ending. I won't get into it because I don't want to spoil it. Or like, oh, that's impossible. I'm like, okay, I get that, but from the rest of the movie, like again, it's like only like kind of teasing what the actual like threat is. That it's like what you don't see, and I like the bond between these men, and there's also the idea of like of male friendship, and I feel like what it sets out to do and like with its ideas and concepts, I think the Academy would kind of buy into that, and I think it would most definitely.
Oh yeah, it's not to say that I haven't seen a lot of great Netflix movies, but out of all of them, this is like the one that I would say, yeah, Academy, go for it.
Yeah, I think they would definitely go for it. I think it did a lot right, and I think it did a lot what it set out to do. So yeah, The Ritual, great film, and I think the Academy would go for like the ideas and like what like kind of messes with your mind kind of thing, and that like those aspects. So yeah, then we're going into stuff that I don't like. Fuck this movie. I don't like it. But however, it has to it's Darren Aronofsky's The Bible, and I think that the Academy would fucking eat that shit up. They love Darren Aronofsky, they love Jennifer Lawrence, they love like, symbolism and pretentious artsy fartsy bullshit, and that's what this fucking movie
Babies
is.
being cannibalized.
Yeah, it's like so like over the top, but it's like, oh, it has something to say about religion and blah blah blah, all that shit. They would
I'll put
eat
it this
this
way,
fucking movie up.
I will say about this what Sean Chandler said about Prometheus. It's the most beautiful looking bad movie I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's a beautiful movie, movie, but terrible.
It has a good cast too. Jennifer Lawrence.
I haven't even. I mean,
yeah, that's the thing. Like,
I haven't seen it, so I can't comment.
Like, such great acting for a garbage fucking premise and script.
Yeah, but I think the Academy would still. I mean, the people who've seen it would agree it's terrible, but I still think the Academy would eat this shit up. They would definitely just blah, 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 like all that, religious symbolism and all that. So,
it's funny since like the Darren Aronofsky, like, what is it with him and just throwing religion in his movies? Because it's like this and The Whale, And
the thing is, like, it's not even a movie that I would hate so much. I would have just wrote it off as just, oh, it's pretentious and all that. But it's the freaking baby scene that was like, yeah, fuck this piece of shit.
But yeah, I still think the Academy would love it. And then this is the mainstream pick.
Oh my god, yeah.
Here we go.
The mainstream pick. Would the Academy like it? Probably not, but they would throw it in as sort of like their Mad Max Fury Road, where they're like, okay, we'll give it to you. A lot of people like this movie. We'll throw it in there. But they wouldn't take it seriously, essentially.
Yeah, I had low expectations for this movie after when it was announced they were doing an It movie before this, before 2017. I didn't think it was going to be anywhere good as like what Tim Curry did as Pennywise. So the fact that Skarsgård was the big surprise out of this movie was really shocking.
I was one of those people that was really on board for what a new adaptation could do, because there's a lot of things to like about the book. There's certainly a lot of things to like about the miniseries, but of course it's far from perfect. And I think that this, and I guess I'll mention it chapter 2, like the whole package in general, I think greatly improved.
Yeah. Hey Zach,
I've come around to the fact that I think Tim Curry is the better Pennywise.
Mm-hmm.
But this adaptation all around, I think, was better done.
Hey Zach, I got a question for you. Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do. We better pour it.
Yes.
But,
Thank
what
you.
do you guys think?
I had to do that.
Yeah.
I had to do that.
What do you guys think between the two? Who do you think what ended up still being the better Pennywise?
Oh, I think
Tim Curry.
Skarsgård's better. I think the thing is about Tim Curry is I agree with Doug Walker. He's too funny. Like, he's not scary.
That's exactly the thing. It's like Pennywise is supposed to be scary, and every time I see Tim Curry, it's just like I just start laughing.
Well, the thing with me with Tim Curry is his voice.
The bathroom scene with Eddie, I think, is scary. Like, see when you dreams, come back anytime. Bring your friends.
Yeah.
But
wait, hang on, Zach. Rome, what were you gonna say? In regards to Tim, you're muted, I think. But yeah, I will wait for Rome for a little bit. But I do think it does have some merit. I'm not like gonna act like it does.
I'm back.
But yeah, sorry, Rome. What were you gonna say?
What I was trying to say was Tim Curry brought a balance of being funny but also being scary, because he's had that scary voice, which I really liked about his performance. It was just really like how he, in certain scenes he was funny, in certain scenes he was scary, and I just loved what he did with both.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, mainstream pick still has a lot of merit, but I think like the Academy wouldn't treat it like quote unquote seriously, but throw it in there for fandom.
The thing, I was gonna say last time. The thing overall that makes me like it more is the way it handles the whole Georgie thing from beginning to end. It's more emotional.
Right. So I did. I also included Split. The Visit was a return to form for Shyamalan, but this ironed out the flaws of that movie and really went ahead with this one because it really was an effective movie. Put Anya Taylor-Joy on the map, made us realize how talented James McAvoy was. Well written, really effective, atmosphere, and it's again a simple, grounded movie that I think they would go for. I think we can all agree that this is such a great movie, and the Academy would go for that because I think, they have a lot of aspects that they like, and I think this is probably one of them. I think they would kind of weirdly respect, and I'm going to talk about it more when we get to The Visit. I think they would weirdly respect.
Did this get any kind of
critical buzz? Are you asking if it get critical? I think it did get a lot of critical.
No,
buzz.
I was.
I don't remember.
Well, I'm talking about did it get? I was going to ask did it get any kind of nominations at the Oscars?
I don't think so, but I still think that they would, in terms of its own category. I think they would.
If you want to give the Academy their own award for best screwing over of an actor out of an award for James McAvoy, then yeah, but this is I'd already liked James McAvoy for the X-Men movies, but this is the movie that helped me broaden out to wanting to see everything he's done, see him in more things, because I'm just so enamored with him as an actor, how he carries himself, and I don't know how controversial it is, but yeah, this is my favorite. This is my favorite Shyamalan film. Maybe not my favorite.
I would say between this and Unbreakable, those are my two favorite Shyamalan.
Because I think because I could see the Academy going for it, because there's the horror elements, but I think there's enough meat on the bone story wise with how it functions more so as a thriller.
Yeah. And by the way,
I think there's a real chance that they could go for it.
Yeah. And by the way, I know this wasn't one of the picks and all, but since we're still talking about Shyamalan, Glass is underrated.
Yeah, but I don't view that as really as a horror movie.
Well,
I feel
yeah,
like
that's what that
sci-fi thriller or a little bit of drama there as well.
Yeah, this whole
So,
whole trilogy, like Unbreakable, this, and Split, are my top 3 Shyamalan.
I mean, you can make, like Zach said, you can make a case for this being his best film he ever made. I mean, I love it. Sixth Sense, I love Unbreakable. This was a big surprise back in 2016.
Yeah,
especially Charlie McAvoy's performance. Holy shit!
It really was. And McAvoy, just such an exemplary actor. How the mighty have fallen, would speak no evil, but that's beside the point. And then this is another one. This got a lot of like smaller critical praise, but it still got a lot. Emil Hirsch, Brian Cox. It's essentially a bottle movie where it all takes place in one location, and the main thing was like is Andre Overdahl. He also did Troll Hunter, and as well as like a couple other, Scary Stories Tell in the Dark. I like that movie, but yeah, he's a very good director, and this was some people consider one of, if not his best movie. And like affected, like weird shit starts happening when they start working on this Jane Doe body. Both of them are coroners, so like it deals with a lot of like weird surreal stuff, and I think again, like the small grounded effectiveness, kind of like what we were saying about Split, would be done here as well. And I think again the Academy would kind of go for that. I think
I've only seen pieces of this, so there's not and it was only like when it came out, so there's not a whole lot I could say about it.
I feel like this was a movie I had to pay close attention to.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it, so I really.
I remember having some creepy atmosphere though, but then again, I haven't seen it in a long time.
And I think the only reason I actually knew about that movie's existence was because I know it was on Filmmaster Adams' favorites of 2016.
Yeah. So. This is a weirder one. It's an Iranian film. It was with a joint with Netflix, I think. But yeah, this deals with, it's again period piece, dealing with like in the middle of the it's war-torn Tehran in the 80s, like during one of the many wars in Iran, and it also deals with a mother taking care of her child. There's a little bit of a demonic thing going on, but I feel like even though she's not a single mother, she essentially is, because her husband kind of is like off, like traveling because of like war stuff. So she's essentially there by herself dealing with her kid. And it's, I feel like the Academy would go for like the, motherhood kind of thing, as well as, there's a bit of a demonic force to it, period piece. And, it has a lot to say about like the politics at the time and all that. So I feel like that they would most definitely go for something like this. And I don't think it was the greatest thing ever. Had a little bit too many jump scares. It was a little poorly paced. But overall, I think, again, this was what I think it would be up the Academy's alley in terms of the things I mentioned. So yeah, Under the Shadow, it's on Netflix. So I would weirdly recommend it.
That's another one I'll put on the list.
Don't Breathe. Yes, I know. Most of us hate this movie. However, it did get a lot of praise. Audiences and critics liked it, and I feel like this would be their mainstream choice. And I think, I mean, it does have a lot of aspects I think would be up the Academy's alley, but it would, for the most part, be their mainstream pick. Like, a lot of audiences liked it, so we'll include it for that. But I know none of us really liked it all that much.
I haven't seen it really. So.
This is one of the examples where it's like literally the ending itself is what actually ruins it, because I was really liking it at first, like, because like if they didn't put in that twist of the old guy being as fucked up as they were, because like okay, you can root for this guy fucking these people up because they're freaking assholes. So I was into it for the most part, like how he trapped them in the dark and all that shit. I was into it, but then the turkey baster.
Yeah,
and
it's pretty much.
Yeah, sorry, really disappointed me that they did that, but yeah.
Yeah,
I was gonna say. So Zach, pretty much like the 2016 version of High Tension. You remember that movie? Like how everyone was praising it was so great up until the ending, and then it sucked.
Don't spoil it for me. I haven't seen it and I want to see it, so don't spoil High
I
Temperature.
won't. I won't say it.
But yeah, Don't Breathe. Even though none of us really liked it, I think it still would be nominated.
I
And
guess
then
you could say I'm the most positive because I was actually enjoying it.
Train to Busan. This is just exemplary in
I haven't-
every which way.
Oh, I love this movie.
It's so good.
Oh, this
like it's
is
just.
awesome.
I just think it's like in terms of Train to Busan, it would just be. This is also a 2016 movie. I don't know why I wrote 2015. That was a error on my part. My bad.
Yeah.
But Train to Busan, I think is just again another like simple, effective movie. It deals with relationship between a father and daughter. It has a lot of like twists in terms of like characters dying and how they live through the situation, how like you rely on one another, all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, zombie movie ever made. So I think
100%.
the Academy would definitely go for something like this, how like effective it is, as well as like the tether of this relationship between the father and the daughter, and it just like again simple and effective. I think they would definitely go for that.
One and done for me. Because part of me really wants to call it the greatest zombie film of all time, because in a way I think it actually is. But the ending, man, some endings when they do those gut punch endings, some of them I can take and still rewatch them, but this is one of those ones. It's not an ending that ruins it. In fact, it's an ending that greatly complements the movie. But it's like My Dog Skip, like one of those one and done. I can.
No, I love how it's a zombie movie. You know, you're not gonna get a good ending. I mean, it's all about survival and trying to just get out of a situation that you just can't get out of the entire movie.
Yeah. And even my dad and my sister, who both hate zombie movies, liked this movie. My dad even watched. He only came in like when we watched. I don't know, like we're like 25% of it. We were done. I was showing it to my sister, and he was like getting like really into it, and I'm like, yeah, just that's how truly great it is. So yeah, again, it's a 2016 movie. That was my mistake. But yeah, the next one is Crimson Peak. This hits so much of what the Academy fucking jerks off. Period piece, gothic, romance. What else do I fucking need to say? Period piece, gothic, romance. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, I do remember like because my older brother he loves horror films. And I remember when I went to go see him visit him in Virginia, he was like he had a Crimson Peak and he was like, "Have you seen this movie?" He's like, I mean, wow, it is. Honestly, it's just like wow. But yeah, it's like you're right. It does have that kind of gothic, period piece kind of movie.
I've never seen it, but it has a really good cast. Looking it up: Tom Hiddleston, Jessica Chastain, Doug Jones,
this definitely
Mia Wasikowska.
This definitely feels like something that the Academy would just eat up.
They would fucking eat this shit
Was
up like it's
heavily.
Fucking...
Was this promoted ever heavily in 2015? I don't remember hearing anything about this movie.
I remember seeing trailers for it.
It had really poor marketing because it was sold as a horror movie because it was Guillermo del Toro. So it's like, oh my god, horror from Guillermo del Toro when it was really a gothic romance.
And you know how much the Academy loves Guillermo del Toro.
So so Del Toro, period piece, gothic romance.
I saw the trailer for it, but didn't get to see it.
But yeah, Crimson Peak, I think they would eat this shit up for breakfast. Speaking of period piece,
you eat shit for breakfast?
You eat pieces of shit for breakfast? Anyway.
No.
No.
A few weeks ago.
Anyway, The Witch. What hasn't been said about The Witch? What hasn't been said about Robert Eggers? We all love Robert Eggers here.
Oh yeah.
The Witch is just it was like this came on the scene and we're like, where the fuck did this guy come from? And he just came in and hit it swinging.
I mean, after seeing it
swinging.
Sorry, John.
No, you go, Rome.
I was gonna say after seeing it a few weeks ago, this movie you could easily say one of the best horror movies of the decade. For 2010.
Like everything Eggers does is just exemplary in every which way. This we were talking about The Lighthouse before. Northman, that wasn't a horror movie, so we didn't talk about it. But and then Nosferatu is going to be another banger. I know it is. Like, I don't have a lot of I've been more and more skeptical as time goes on. 100%, I believe Nosferatu is going to be another banger. Like, it's going to. Like, I believe if it isn't, then I'll eat my words. But 100% Nosferatu, another banger.
I mean, I wasn't a big fan of The Northman, but it's still a beautiful movie. I mean, he hasn't really come out with a bad movie that I know of.
Yeah, same with Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan just doesn't make a bad movie, or a bad miniseries, project, whatever you want to call it. But
I mean,
I've seen a lot of people say The Northman is their favorite Robert Eggers film, but ironic enough, I'm going with this. I really like it.
For me, it's between this and between Robert Eggers' work, it's this and Lighthouse in terms of creative and storytelling.
Me. I would agree. Yeah, and I would agree with Rome. So if I had to pick my favorite, it would be between this and Lighthouse.
Yeah.
So, although Northman is still great though.
During the year, this would probably be my best picture pick.
Though it's probably just keep in mind is for something like this, it's probably one of those movies you have to watch more than once.
Yeah, my sister wasn't a fan of it when she first watched it, and I'm like, Katie, let's watch it again. She's like, all right, we'll watch it again, but you got to be with me because I'm not a big horror movie nut. I'm like, oh, I got you. And she watched it again, and she was like, okay, that definitely improved. I'm like, there you go. But yeah, The Witch, exemplary, and we love Robert Eggers, and I think they would.
The Robert Eggers does a great job with the casting, just finding the right chemistry with the actors and actresses together. I don't know what it is, but he just finds the right.
Even dealing with that fucking goat, that fucking goddamn goat.
Yep.
So problematic. They had to fucking retire the guy to North Carolina farm.
Wow.
The goat that played Black Phillip in this movie, he was so troublesome on production that Robert Eggers is like, I'm never dealing with fucking animals ever again on a movie. And they had to he was so, I think he worked on the Black Phillip. I forget what the actual goat's name is. And I think he worked on this in one other movie. And he was too hard to work with. So they're like, fuck this. So he got sent to a farm and he's on the farm. I don't know. I don't think he's dead, but he's just, for goat milk and that kind of thing. But yeah, fun fact there.
Yeah. I mean, Anna Taylor-Joy is amazing in that movie.
Of course. Then we have The Invitation. I haven't seen this one, but it's definitely one of those small knit, dinner from hell movies where it's guy goes to dinner hosted by his ex-wife and chaos ensues. It's one of those cases where it's it's an introvert's worst nightmare kind of thing, where it's you're just kind of stuck in this situation and you can't do anything about it, but also a lot, but then it also exceeds that by doing a lot of fucked up shit that that horror movies do. So I feel that they would kind of feed into that as well. So yeah, I think The Invitation would go with
the vampire horror film.
No, that was from a couple of years ago. This has nothing to do with that fucking stupid movie. But
that movie sucked.
Yeah, I heard it sucked. Yeah.
But no, this is not the vampire movie. This has Logan Marshall Green in it. He was in Upgrade, and he was also the shocker that got murdered by Michael Keaton by accident. So yeah, he's in this, and I've heard very mixing. Some people say it's brilliant, some people say it really sucks, but I think they would, it's kind of feeds into what the Academy kind of likes. So another thing deals with demon shit. So again, I think the Academy would go for that simple and effective, demonic, creepy, again, kind of falling into the indie film vibe that was kind of on the rise again. And, I think the Academy would, it's just it's one of those movies you have to experience for yourself. It's just, it's Oz Perkins. He just came out with Long Legs this year. So I think he would be in kind of their eye a little bit. But yeah, Black Coat's Daughter, this was, even though it has Emma Roberts, and I hate Emma Roberts, it just goes to show how great this movie is. Because it's just it works with the creepy vibe. It's unsettling, the atmosphere. It focuses on women, and it just it has like a bit of a natural disaster kind of thing to it. But yeah, I think this would be like one of those like small knit effective movies that the Academy would go for. Speaking of, then we have The Visit. I think the only reason they would put this on here, because even though The Visit isn't amazing by any means, it does harken back to what M. Night Shyamalan was good at, which was like small knit thrillers, and that was this movie. It was a good horror thriller. Unfortunately, it does suffer from a lot of jump scares, and I think he did a better job with Split. But he kind of did this movie. He's like, I did After Earth and Last Airbender. He did big blockbusters and they sucked. So he's like, you know what, let me go back to what I was good at. And he even satirizes himself a little bit, and he goes back to what he was good at. I think the Academy would respect that. Like, okay, you're going back to what made you great. We'll give it to you. We'll give you a nomination. So I think that's, you know, something to. I think they would admire that at least. So I don't know if anybody else kind of agrees with me on that, but
I mean, I can understand it. Even though I haven't seen this movie, I can kind of understand from that perspective that yeah, this was pretty much considered like Shyamalan's best film since like what, Unbreakable, I think.
Like Signs, maybe.
Like at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right, Joe. This feels like he was going back into his own element that he's used to doing, and that whole thing after Last Airbender.
Yeah. Let's not forget After Fucking Earth, because I'm not gonna make him forget it, because he made that shit. Fuck you, man. And that's arguably worse. So, you know, I never saw it, but I almost saw it. So, Babadook. They would eat this up. Single mother, psychological, surreal experimentalism, heavy on atmosphere, grief, PTSD, and, you know, kind of all of that as well. And so yeah, I think Babadook would be. I mean, everybody pretty much loves this movie. I know the kid is annoying, but like, he didn't make the movie worse for me, and I think it would still be an overall effective movie. And I think the Academy would go for that for the reason, like grief, PTSD, single motherhood, as well as the atmosphere as well. So yeah.
Okay. Zach's got something to say.
What do you got to say, Zach?
I was gonna say about The Visit though, before you moved on, was that it's very slow, takes a while to get going, but I still have a soft spot for it because it's just simply one of his better made movies.
Yeah. But yeah, so I haven't seen this movie. I think Devin watched it. I don't think he liked it, but
I never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's an Iranian movie, and it's a vampire movie. And I haven't seen it, but I heard nothing but amazing things about this movie. Again, it deals with, you know, kind of like the vibe of like the time of like, you know, kind of like downtrodden, you know, plus it deals with like womanhood and all that, like being stuck in, you know, a Middle East, which is not exactly for women's rights and all that. So I feel like the Academy would kind of go for that. Plus, you know, it's black and white, and it's like, again, small grounded effectiveness that I think they would like. So yeah, and I from what I've heard, it also like kind of turns like some vampire lore on its head. So yeah, I think that they would really like that very much. So yeah, Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. Good Night Mommy. It's a German film. It recently got remade with Naomi Watts and Homelander's son, and it was apparently really fucking terrible. Yeah, this is famous for its big twist, which I won't reveal here, but it got ruined for me. So it's like it deals with the idea of like these kids, their mom gets like this surgery, they don't recognize her, and they wonder if she is actually their mother. She like doesn't act like their mother, so it's like, do they believe her? Do they not? It kind of deals with like a reality bending, what is real, what isn't, surrealness to it. And, you know, it's, again, very like creepy, but again, I feel like Academy would like reality bending movies. If they liked horror movies, I feel like they would go for that. And that's what kind of this one is a little bit. But yeah, I've heard this is a great. This was like one of the best like horror movies of like 2014. So yeah, I decided to go for it, and I think the Academy would like it too. It Follows. This is the mainstream pick. Even though now this is one of those movies that's like cool to hate because it was like so popular, and then it kind of fell off, and then I think David Mitchell Roberts, the director, he only did Under the Silver Lake, which kind of came and went. So yeah, I thought it was the fact that it like almost satirizes and like puts like certain slasher tropes on its head. I think the Academy would go for that as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Rome, what do you think generally, like, why do you think the Academy would choose this one?
Very creative, and then it's like it's one of those movies where you weren't expecting what this was, and it's an artsy movie, but it just does a great job like scaring you after having sex and this whole other like crazy thing it was trying to do.
Yeah,
it's just one of those movies that doesn't.
Because I mean the whole It seems like it's one of those movies that pretty much, like, honestly, it's an obvious metaphor for like STDs and AIDS and all, and the fact that like like the whole trope in horror movies that whenever someone has sex, they die. So that's
that's what I was like meaning. Like it turns a lot of those tropes on their head and like has like a weird almost reason for it.
Yeah.
I thought this movie was going to suck just because I thought the premise sounded fucking stupid. But the fact that they were able to take a weird sounding premise like that and actually play it straight really impressed me.
They're still working on a sequel.
Really?
Yeah.
Although I will say the ending was kind of, honestly, the ending was kind of stupid. I'll admit that.
Plus, y'all probably know what scene I'm talking about, but this movie has one of the scariest jump scares I've at least ever seen in the film.
Yeah.
About.
Here's the thing, I don't know if a little bit of a side tangent, but I don't know about anyone else here. I don't hate jump scares when they are effective. Like Sinister is a great example of Scott Derrickson knows how to make an effective jump scare. David Mitchell Roberts, I think his name is David Robert Mitchell. Okay, I just saw David Robert Mitchell. He made effective jump scares in this movie. Like they were effective because it brings in the terror. It's not like oh my god, it was a towel on the lens, or like, oh my god, it was a cat. Like, fuck that shit. I like an effective jump scare. This one had effective jump scares.
Exorcist 3 still has the best one.
Yes. And then Only Lovers Left Alive. It's like sort of like a tragic romance kind of thing. I think they would go for that. Plus, it's got Tilda Swinton, Tom Hiddleston. It's got Anton Yelchin, a lot of things that a lot of people would like. And and it deals, it's like sort of like the twisted, like, what does it mean to live forever kind of thing with vampirism. So there's like a lot of that. And I've heard nothing but amazing things about this movie. It's on my list. It's definitely one of the cases where it's, like, again, like dealing with love and loss and all that. So I think Only Lovers Left Alive, I think it kind of leans into more drama aspects, but it still has like horror aspects, it's like about vampires and all that. So I think Only Lovers Left Alive, definitely. Under the Skin, it's more sci-fi than anything, but again, it has like sort of that surreal aspect. It has, it's like about like the like kind of like dealing with women and what like they kind of go through, but it's through the lens of an alien. And and I think it's like her having like control over men, and I feel like the Academy would kind of go for that. Plus, I think there is like a level of surrealness that they would go for as well that's in this movie. So yeah, Under the Skin, I think, would definitely be a good contender for an Academy nominated. I don't know if it did get nominated for anything, but it's also like Scarlett Johansson was showing like this came out a year after Avengers, so it's like I can do serious movies too, and I feel like the Academy would.
I mean, she was great in this movie.
Yeah. Well, since you've seen it, do you have anything you want to add? So,
just her performance is what's worth about this movie. Is just she's very seductive, just very like Scarlett Johansson, who's just this monster alien.
Yeah.
Just that's one thing to take away from the movie.
She's one of the hottest women on the planet, so I'd expect her to be seductive for a role that requires it.
Well, she goes. It's hard to explain. You have to watch the movie, but she goes really like far with this.
Yeah.
Like not nudity, but just like her performance and just all that other stuff.
Yeah.
I've heard nothing but exemplary things about this movie and her. So, yeah, I think this would be a good addition.
I would say that movie like showed her that she can do more than just doing like commercial movies. It really shows she can do smaller indie movies.
Yeah. So this is Pink. I think Pink Woon-sun. I think that was his name. This is his version of Shadow of a Doubt. If you don't know what Shadow of a Doubt is, that is an Alfred Hitchcock film where it's like this girl's uncle returns after like someone long and she like doesn't recognize him and think he's like evil. That's kind of what this is. So this guy, played by Matthew Good, comes into this family after her father dies, and she's like, this guy she like doesn't trust him, but at the same time becomes like almost like in love with him. It's definitely like a weird kind of movie, but I feel like this deals with this womanhood is a very big proponent in this film. So I feel like that would be a big case for this. Plus, it's just like effective. Like Nicole Kidman's great, Matthew Good is excellent, Mia Wasikowska is also really good. So I feel like this would be like, again, family drama. They would kind of go for that as well. So yeah, I think Stoker is another one. It's a very like it went under the radar. Wentworth Miller, who famously played Captain Cold on The Flash, wrote this movie, and he did a really good job with it. So I feel like this is something that the Academy would go for with what I mentioned, like kind of like, you know, like the like maturing growth and like kind of going like kind of moving on from your youth, and like because her father, which was very close to her father, so it's like, oh, is the uncle a replacement? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but it's just like, you know, it's a one big metaphor for like growing up and maturing, and I feel like the Academy would kind of go for that, and it's effective horror thriller. So Stoker is also good. Oculus, got to give it to my boy Mike Flanagan. Not one of his best efforts, but it's still like really damn good. Showed, you know, Karen Gillan after Doctor Who that she's like, oh hey, I can actually be a great actress. And again, it's effective. It kind of deals with like the reality bending, kind of going in and out of flashbacks kind of smoothly, and then again, what is real, what isn't, grounded kind of bottle movie a little bit. And I think the Academy would kind of go for that, this sort of like smaller bottle movie, as well as like reality bending stuff. So yeah, definitely Oculus. The Sacrament. This is one of many Ty West movies before he actually made a good movie with, you know, the X trilogy, Pearl trilogy, whatever you want to call it. But I feel like with what Ty West's movies were, even though we don't like them from what I've seen of them, I think the Academy would eat that shit up. Very like slow burn, pretentious, artsy films. And this is one of them, although this didn't get a ton of fame, didn't get a ton of critical analysis, but I feel like they would kind of still throw it in there after like years, and we'll get to that soon, like years of love for Ty West. So I think this would be one of many from them. So even though I don't really like Ty West until he made X, I feel like the Academy would like him for that in terms of only horror movies. So then we have The Conjuring. This was the big like mainstream pick. Not saying, and when I say mainstream, I don't mean to like denounce it. I mean like in the view of the Academy, like where like they don't quote unquote treat it seriously, but it's like a lot of people liked it, so we have to include it type of thing. But even then, Conjuring is still a well done and effective movie. Mm-hmm. And I think it had a great atmosphere. It also brings in that period piece aspect. It brings in a true story, quote unquote, aspect that the Academy also likes. They love their true stories. So I feel like that hits a lot of places for them, in addition to the fact it got a lot of love at, you know, box office. And it did get some critical appraisal. So anybody else who has seen this, curious to know your thoughts.
Yep, I've seen it. It's an interesting one. If it wasn't for another horror film in 2013 that came out that I would have personally given it to, this would be my pick because this is interesting because it's not one of my favorite horror films of all time overall, but it is one of the scariest films I've ever seen.
Yeah, I do remember watching this. I think I watched it. I think I watched it with Ben. I can't remember, but it was like on. I just remember just being like, wow. But yeah, it honestly has that little creepy vibe and all. And I mean, it is based on real paranormal investigators like Ed and Lorraine Warren. They were real paranormal experts, you know. In fact, I think this is another movie that I pretty much showed my mom because my mom loves terms of like she doesn't like the whole like in terms of horror films, she doesn't like the slasher blood and guts kind of film, but she likes anything dealing with supernatural. And I figured this was right up her alley, and and she loved it. So
yeah,
you know.
I mean, I'm familiar with. Sorry.
No, Rome, you go. Zach, quiet down for a second.
I'm familiar with Ed and Lorraine Warren, so I remember how exciting it was for this movie. I mean, Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga both did a phenomenal job with their chemistry and like really buy you as Ed and Lorraine Warren. So just showing you some of the ideas of, you know, just the paranormal investigation. I know they kind of blow up some things, but it just gave you an idea of the amount of sacrificing and the amount of crazy stuff that they opened the doors to.
They did.
Especially during the time where there wasn't a whole lot of paranormal investigating going on during that time period.
Yeah.
That you were
isn't there supposed to be a fourth Conjuring movie coming out next year?
Yes. It does
one,
not look good.
It's going to be the last one too. It's called Conjuring.
That's what they said about the third one.
Yeah, well, the third one wasn't that great either.
And I don't know what that means, if it's just going to be the last Conjuring film or the last of this whole franchise.
I would imagine it's just going to be the last like Conjuring specific movie because I can't imagine it's still a lucrative franchise for Warner Brothers, so I think they would definitely go for that. But yeah, Hammer's big return to horror films, Woman in Black, again, period piece, effective, simple. It all takes place in the house. It's got a well-known actor at the forefront. So yeah, I remember really liking this movie, and I think it just fits into what the Academy likes. Again, I know we keep saying period piece. I know we keep really, a lot of that repetition, but that's what they love. That's what they, that's a lot of their bread and butter when it comes to a lot of their movies. So I think they would really go for this. And, Daniel Radcliffe showed that he's not just, Harry Potter, which just ended the year before with 2011. So he's more of an actor than he's fucking Weird Al, goddammit.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think Woman in Black showcased his acting ability. It had a really good supporting cast. It had a good bleak tone to it, good atmosphere, and period piece. They love it. Slow burn, another good thing they like. Slow burn, kind of very slow, like melodic, not boring, but very melodic film. But yeah, Woman in Black is definitely a big one. I went with this one because there wasn't a lot of great horror movies that were coming out in 2012, but I feel like I wanted to kind of even the playing field a little bit, because maybe in this case, because they do nominate animated films. It's not just the category that they have, but I feel like they would kind of throw it in there as well.
I feel like this is pretty much like a recovery after this was stolen by Brave that year.
Yeah. They would maybe give it another nomination. I don't think it would win, but I feel like it gives it more of a chance, I guess, because it is a horror film. No matter what you say, it's a damn horror movie. It's got zombies, it's got witches, it's got a lot of fucked up shit, but it also has a very heartfelt core to it. And I think, they did nominate it, so there's precedent for them nominating this. So I think they would nominate it for horror film as well.
And it's funny. I know that this is not on the nominees list, but I think another good movie that could be that has that horror feel that's also animated that year, Frankenweenie. But that's.
Yeah, there's only so many animated movies I could have done, so
I feel like Paranorman probably would be the better choice of the two. So
yeah, don't tell Devin that. But yeah, speaking of Sinister, we did talk about Sinister before. This was one of those movies that was like, I feel like a lot of people kind of shoo-shooed because it was like, you know, a lot of people didn't expect it to be good, and then it turned out to be really good. But then there's still a lot of people that were like, oh, it's, you know, it's still, oh, it's Blumhouse, this is that. But this is that I was like, I didn't watch this because this came out at a time when I wasn't totally into horror movies. I know, hard to believe, but I didn't watch this at the time. I got the ending spoiled for me, and then I watched, and then I saw a video on it, and then I watched it years ago. Like, oh, this is good, and I think the Academy would kind of go for this because it kind of goes into, there is like a little bit of the meta-ness. You have like a horror writer, well, true crime writer. You have like kind of, you know, like a guy who knows this stuff, but like also like he's a very flawed individual. I think they would kind of go for that too. Again, very simplistic, sort of grounded film, but it also deals with like a demonic entity, and I think that they would go for that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that they would really like this one. And yeah,
because I mentioned earlier with The Conjuring, right? That while it's not one of my favorite horror films of all time, it is one of the scariest films I've ever seen. Period. This is another one because I mean it is one of my favorite horror films, but it's like probably the second fucking scariest film I've ever seen in my life. Like seriously, I am not joking. This film terrifies me. But
yeah, it's definitely a creepy one. It definitely, you know, again, what I was saying before, Scott Derrickson knows how to do jump scares because there's a couple jump scares in this movie, but he was saying like, if you want to do a jump scare, you have to earn it. And they earned it with this movie.
Yeah,
a lot of people are like, oh, it's jump scares.
But,
I feel like, yeah, there are a lot of jump scares, but the thing is they work. They're effective because you are scared by them. It's not like a temporary, oh no, it was a cat that ran by the fucking camera. No, or like Paranormal Activity or shit like that. This is effective. Like it adds into the terror. It adds into the atmosphere. Yeah. And that's what makes it work so well.
And I'm sorry.
It had a great story. Sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, Zach. It had a really good like horror mystery, supernatural mystery. It's why I like Long Legs, because I kind of felt a little bit with Long Legs, with, you know, thinking of Sinister a little bit, but like it's just the story itself from the beginning to the middle up to the end, where you're like, wow, this is, because I saw this in theaters and I'm like, wow, this is really good. You don't know if it's like a supernatural or is it like a boogeyman. You don't know. They didn't really tell you until the very end what exactly this was.
Yeah, I will say the only dumb thing was like the very end, the ending jump scare, because the director didn't want to put it in, but they forced him to, and so that was the only thing. But outside of that, like that was the only jump scare that was like kind of dumb.
And speaking of that, I actually, because this is one of the things that people say doesn't work so well, as the design of Bagul, but I'll defend that too. I think he looks fucking terrifying also.
He does look creepy. He was inspired by black metal makeup. So I thought that was awesome. And, way to go, Scott Derrickson.
Yeah, and all around I'll say, please bring this character back. I know Sinister 2 wasn't the best, but I want more of this universe.
Yeah, I think it would be a cool idea. It's a shame Sinister 2 sucked, but yeah, I think but I feel like it might get repetitious after a while, too repetitive, because it's like, oh, it's just like, oh, the kids are we know the twists, we know the turns, and then it ends bleakly. So I think you got to find a way to make it interesting. So however they do that, I do hope maybe a Sinister 3 happens, get Scott Derrickson back once he's done with Black Phone 2. So yeah, I think Sinister is a good, effective one. Cabin in the Woods, we have our meta movie. So I know that it may seem weird to nominate this one, but I feel like they might be into the whole meta aspect. Plus, it's got a lot of caliber. Like, I feel like Drew Goddard has a lot of good, and Joss Whedon has had a lot of clout in the industry. I know he's an asshole, but he does have like a lot of that clout. I think they would be into. Plus, it's got a good cast. It has, you know, and I think they would be into the meta-ness of it. Like it, you know, it's trying to say something about horror. And sometimes they don't go for that, but sometimes they do. And I feel like here they would. And so Yeah, and it's just like the characters are so well done. It like once everything comes to a head, it like and when you understand what Goddard and Whedon were going for, it works. It's like a big commentary on horror. And I feel like, I think this is one of the cases the Academy would go into that. And it like
Out
weirdly
of
works.
out of all the horror films that people try to give to it, as far as, oh, it's the next Scream as far as commentating on horror, this is the one that I think actually deserves it, because I think its commentary is brilliant. I hate the fucking trailer though, because I wish, because you know what would have been so brilliant about this is that maybe it would have affected the boxes, but I wish they would have crafted the trailer to make it look like it's just a simple cabin in the woods film, like some kind of monsters going after them. Don't show anything about the underground stuff and that they're manipulating everything, because I hate that the trailer showed all that.
Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Sometimes the director and writers can't control the marketing sometimes, so it's yeah.
Yeah, it's a great movie, man. Another one of my favorites. One of my favorite movies. Period.
Fun fact. I know we did a good movie watch of this together on Hangout before.
I don't remember that, but
I do, because it was my first time seeing the movie.
Yeah, great stuff,
Yeah.
and I think they would kind of go for that because I think the Academy would be one of those things where they would hate slasher movies. So like anything that makes fun of slasher movies, I think they would go for, and we'll talk about that in a couple episodes as well, the more famous one. But Cabin in the Woods is the better movie. Anyway, so then the last one is Maniac. I know this didn't get a ton of fanfare, but I think the Academy would like the creativeness, because I know Rome keeps saying stuff like creative aspects, and when you keep saying that, I'm like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I feel like once in a while the Academy would go for like a more like, oh, it was shot like this, it was done like this, and the fact that this is literally in the eyes of a killer, literally it's through his entire POV. I think that they would kind of buy into that, and even though the remake doesn't get a ton of love or hate, it's just kind of there. It kind of went under the surface, but it's Alexander Aja. I love Alexander Aja, and so I think that they would like the creative aspects of this movie. I think they would like the POV aspects, and Elijah Wood does an exemplary job.
Oh yeah, he's done an amazing job.
Truly amazing actor. So it does things better than the original. Not a ton, but it does a couple things better than the original, and I think it does those things very well.
Oh,
I think.
No disrespect to the original, but I do think this one it's another one of the horror remakes I think is better. And
yes,
if Aja didn't make Hills Have Eyes, this would be my favorite film of his.
Yeah. It's just Maniac. I like because the thing is, they're two very different movies. I love the disgusting nature of the original, how it's grimy 70s grossness. That I love. I love the griminess. Like 70s New York is just so great. It's such a great setting. This one is like the vacant, like emptiness of LA. So they both work for different reasons, I think.
I mean, Elijah Wood's a very underrated actor, and this is one of those other movies that he's done that's really good.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I mean, it's violent nature done right in sort of ways.
Yeah.
That violent nature tried to be, but this did it better.
Yeah.
And you think Lord of the Rings alone would have made Elijah Wood an A-lister?
Yeah. By the way, guys, I'm probably going to go and hop off for the night. So
okay. Yeah, I'll see you later.
All right, see you later, man. Take it easy.
Yeah. So we have 2 more years. We have 2011, 2010. We'll try to get it through it as quick as we can.
Yeah.
Because I got to go do my job. So
no worries, man.
So yeah, the next one is Twixt. Probably never heard of this one. I think this was Francis Ford Coppola's last major movie. Well, major, like nobody knows anything about it, but it's definitely a weirder one. But I feel like they would nominate it purely on the grounds that it's Francis Ford Coppola. It from what I've heard, it's a good movie. It's not like the most amazing movie, but it's like, okay, it's Coppola, we got to nominate it. That's how I would feel about it. But it's got I believe Elle Fanning and Alden Ehrenreich. Weirder film, but I've heard it's. Some people say it's really good. Some people say it's really bad. But I think they would nominate purely on the grounds it's Coppola. So yeah, Skin I Live In, disturbing Spanish movie. Pedro Almodovar. He's a very well-known Spanish filmmaker. His range is incredible. He works with Antonio Banderas a lot. I watched a clip of this movie and it made me never want to fucking watch it ever because of how disturbing it was. So yeah, I feel like that they would be kind of into like it deals
What was
with
the
like
scene that you saw? Because this based on the poster alone, you know this is like one of those crazy like balls to the wall kind of
it
movies.
reveals the twist of the movie, so I'm not
Oh.
gonna say it.
Oh, okay.
I would like I never want to watch it, but if you like disturbing shit, I would say watch it. But if you can't, then don't.
Just based off of the premise and the poster alone, I assume it's like he kidnaps this chick for his experiments or whatever.
Kind of. It's a very weird sort of movie, and it involves like the death of his wife and his daughter, and there's like these weird aspects. You think it's like one thing, but then it's another, and then it's another, and then it's like goes back and forth to flashbacks, and it's just like it's a foreign film, so it goes way beyond like what American films can do. So, and I've heard it's a great movie. It's just like I saw this one elongated clip, and I'm just like, I never fucking want to watch this ever. I read the synopsis, and it is disturbing. So, yeah, I feel like the Academy, it would just be like it's a weird kind of movie. It deals with a lot of like female aspects. There is elements of like rape and stuff like that, and abuse and toxic relationships. So I feel like, when there's a commentary on women, I feel like the Academy is kind of gonna go for that. And yeah, very weird, very disturbing kind of movie. So, but I've heard nothing but great things. So it got a lot of critical praise. So, yeah, Skin I Live In, gives me the chills. But Innkeepers, what I was saying about Ty West, I know we don't like Ty West, but what I was saying before is I feel like the Academy would like Ty West in terms of if they were nominating just horror movies, where they, go really towards like the slow burn artsy kind of vibe, and I feel like that they would kind of go for that. The biggest one being his 2009 film, which we'll get to next time. But yeah, The Innkeepers, it deals with like paranormal activity kind of stuff, and then it's like, is it real? Is it not? But I know some people liked this, some people hated it, but I've never seen any of his like movies outside of the X trilogy, so I can't judge it.
Yeah, same here.
But
I have, and I'll say this because obviously we all mostly agree that Ty West redeemed himself with the X trilogy.
Yeah,
and it's made me look back on his films, and I still don't like any of his earlier films like this or House of the Devil or whatever, but I respect them more now, mostly this one, in the sense that, like, okay, he was some up and coming guy, and there's probably the situation where it's like he'll take any job he can get just so he can put himself out there as a director. And
yeah,
and this
that's
part of
what
me
he did with Cabin Fever 2.
Yeah, and there's part of me that respects that. Outside of Cabin Fever 2, like, I won't make it a rant or anything, but don't watch Cabin Fever 2. Like,
don't watch any Cabin Fever movie.
If you think The Skin I Live In is disturbing, which I'm sure it is, Cabin Fever 2.
Well, I haven't seen the movie. I've just seen one clip, so I don't know.
Cabin Fever 2 is not only disturbing, but it's disgusting and uncomfortable. But back to this, like, but you get what I mean. Like, there's part of me that respects the fact that, okay, he hasn't made he didn't. These aren't good movies, but I respect the fact that, like, he just wants to put himself out there as a director, so he'll take these kind of weird projects.
Right. So yeah, Innkeepers, I think the Academy would be into that. Kill List, it's one of those movies where it's like most of it is like a crime drama, and then the last 10 minutes is a horror movie. So I feel like the Academy would kind of go for that. It does have horror elements throughout. I saw this movie. I thought it was really well done. I saw it with my parents because I kind of forced them to watch it because I wanted to watch it and they wanted to like be with me. So I'm like, well, I'm watching this movie and you're gonna watch it. And they're like, all right. They watched it. They're like, that sucked. And I'm like, I really liked it. I feel like how it amps up the horror and the fact it's mostly like this grounded crime thriller not crime drama, sorry, crime thriller. I feel like, again, the Academy would nominate movies that are not technically like horror, but they count as horror. I count it as horror, but like I could see someone not counting this as horror. So yeah, I feel like that they would kind of like be into that. And it's Ben. I think Ben Wheatley's for the most part is a good director. I know Free Fire is well liked, so I feel like this is something. A lot of people like this movie. I feel like the Academy would like it. It did get a lot of critical praise, so I feel like Kill List would be another good one. Definitely reality unraveling kind of thing. Then Red State. Red State. Here's the thing. I didn't want to include this one because it's Kevin Smith. And I feel like the Academy would fucking hate Kevin Smith. However, it's anti-conservative, anti-religion, anti-republic. They would be all over like the messaging of this. If they want it shits on Christian fundamentalists. So I feel like the Academy would be all fucking over that.
Isn't that a lot like what Pighunt was like, or whatever that?
What is it?
Shit, that movie called The Hunt? Isn't that what a lot of that was like? A lot of anti-conservatism, whatever?
Yeah, that was more like anti-rich, but yeah, kind of in that vein. So yeah, I think they would be all over it just for that, and I think they would overlook their hatred for Kevin Smith, because I feel like the Academy doesn't like Kevin Smith, which is fair. But
this movie got a lot of buzz back in 2010.
Yeah. But yeah, Black Swan, aka Darren Aronofsky's Perfect Blue. But even then, I've heard I didn't watch it at first because I didn't like the idea of it, but I've heard it's excellent, and it did get nominated for Best Picture, so there's precedent. So that's why I pretty much nominated it. It's felt like an easy one to quote unquote nominate, and so yeah, I think it speaks for itself, honestly. Yeah. Let Me In. It's a vampire movie remake of Let the Right One In, and this, I've heard it's just as good as the original. The author loves both iterations.
Great movie.
Yeah, it deals in, again, small knit bottom movie that deals with like outsiders and like the weirdness, and like, but it's also grounded and effective, and showcases vampirism, not in a new way, but like in a creative way. I feel like they would like that. Yeah. And I've heard Chloe Grace Moretz is excellent in this movie.
This movie was just phenomenal.
Yeah.
Kind of hits all the right emotion parts when you watch this movie.
Yeah.
Chloe Grace Moretz is why I slightly prefer this more to the original.
That's fair. I've heard either or. But the author, as I said, loves both.
Yeah,
the author
because I'm in agreement. It's otherwise they're both even in quality.
Right. Then Shutter Island. This was, Martin Scorsese. Gotta include it, right? I feel like that kind of speaks for itself. I don't think this was nominated for Best Picture, but it was nominated for a bunch of stuff, so there is precedent. Mm-hmm. And it's like you have like a fucking illustrious auteur filmmaker behind it. And so it's like Martin Scorsese doing a horror movie. Boom. That's all all right. When do we nominate this? We don't even need to see it. I feel like they would kind of go for that. But even outside of that, I know I'm making fun of it feels like I'm making fun of these movies. I'm really not. I'm not. I love a lot of these movies, unless I say so that I don't. Shutter Island was fucking phenomenal. Like there's a reason I'm including them, not because the Academy I think would nominate it, but on the grounds it's just like it's a great fucking movie. Leonardo DiCaprio's excellent as always. Mark Ruffalo actually gives a decent performance. There's a lot of great aspects to this movie.
I wish there's more I could say about it, but I haven't seen it in I don't know, maybe 5-6 years or so. Yeah. So my memory's a bit rusty, but otherwise, I remember enough.
It's one hell of a psychological thriller.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those movies you go back and rewatch, and you'll find something different with it, or more clues to what they were trying to tell you from the beginning.
I'd imagine this was another one, like how they did with friggin' Silence of the Lambs, right, where they nominated it for Best Picture, but under the guise of a thriller.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't think it got nominated for Best Picture though. If I remember, I could be remembering that wrong. And I've heard the book is even more disturbing. So yeah, I think it's Martin Scorsese.
Oh, what I will say is, right? It's gonna shock this is gonna shock you all to say because I love Titanic. I obviously like Titanic a whole lot more, but this is my favorite DiCaprio performance.
I could see that he was exceptional here, because there was a lot of layers to this. There was a lot of like stuff that he was put through this movie, so that makes a lot of sense. He did an exceptional job here, but he's always usually pretty damn great. Because
probably never imagine.
Say what you will about Titanic. Titanic isn't really an actor movie. It was more about the story and like the events unfolding rather than the individual actors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you'd probably never hear me say that though, would you?
No, I could see where you're coming from. I could see that. But yeah, Shutter Island, great stuff. And then I saw The Devil. This, I believe I want to say it's a Korean movie. I could be misremembering that, but I saw The Devil. I've heard nothing but amazing things about this movie. Yes, it's a Korean film. Okay, good. I was right. But I've heard nothing but amazing things about this movie. It has a lot of it's like action thriller vibes, but it also has a lot of horror vibes. So yeah, I saw The Devil. I've heard it's just like extremely disturbing but very well done. Like I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard it's excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I heard it's like fucking brutal too.
I mean Koreans, they don't fuck around.
Yeah,
man.
the trailer doesn't tell you much either when you see the trailer for it.
Yeah. But yeah, Koreans, they know how to make not only a horror movie, but they know how to just make a damn good movie. But yeah, and then for our final film of 2010 and our final film of this video is The Wolfman, surprisingly. Now, I know this didn't get a lot of love when this came out, and I'll turn it to you, Zach, because I know you've seen this, but I did want to mention this quick. Again, period piece, highbrow actors. You got Benicio del Toro, you got Emily Blunt, Hugo Weaving, Anthony Hopkins. This should have been like the Academy. I feel like would be all into this. Like it hits every aspect. It deals with like a sympathetic man trying to deal with this quote unquote illness he has, but in this case it's werewolfism or lycanthropy or whatever the hell it's called. But I feel like this is a movie that like should have been like the best movie of that year, or like one of the best horror movies like of all time, but it just never caught on. It flopped. It didn't get a lot of great reviews, but I heard the extended cut is better. But I know you guys have seen this, so what are your
I haven't seen it, but I remember the trailer looking really good, but like word to mouth, I just kind of was like, don't bother seeing the movie.
So Zach, what are your thoughts?
I really enjoy this film. In fact, it's not like one of the overall best horror remakes, but I would say it's one of the better ones. It's a film that I avoided for a long time because it came out around the time of like I guess you say mainly Platinum Dunes was the one doing the horror remakes. Like I didn't like outside of the fact that I liked friggin' Texas Chainsaw and Friday the 13th. I didn't like any of the other ones like Nightmare on Elm Street or Amityville. So I assumed that this was just among that. Yeah. But when I finally watched it when I was trying to catch up on some of the Universal films, I figured, okay, this one had a remake, so I finally decided to check it out. And I don't think it's better than the original, but I think it matches the original in terms of the atmosphere, the feel, the era,
a good chiller.
That the visual effects. I actually think the visual effects are okay. Like the transformation, the CGI is a bit wonky, but when it gets into the attacks and the killing and the gore, it's actually pretty decent. And the overall story is actually pretty decent. And I like how it all came to a head at the end, especially with how they resolved Hugo Weaving's character.
Right. So, but it's on my list. I do want to see it. But I feel like they would be all up into this. Even though it didn't get a lot of praise at the time, I feel like they would still be into it because of the things I mentioned. So that's all. But that's all we have for you today. Remember, you guys are choosing what you think would win best horror film of each year. So please follow the link in the description. It's take you to a Google form where you can fill everything out. Even if you haven't seen any of the movies, based on what we said here, based on if we've seen it, or if you want to look into it further, or maybe even watch them, you guys have until Halloween to, actually do these. So please fill out the form below. But that's all we have for you today. Next time, which is going to be on the 3rd, this Thursday, we're going to be talking about the Academy Award nominations of the 2000s. So we'll see you guys there.